Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Wellington's Pub and Grill in Winona for the Tom Sawyer Show. I'm Justin Barrientos here on HBC TV 25 along with Tom Sawyer, and thanks for doing this once again this year.
Yeah, very excited about it. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, and thank you to Wellington's Pub and Grill for hosting us for our first show, which we've done the last couple of years. It's really nice to kind of kick it off here.
Yeah, it's always fun to come down to Wellington's, and Julie has always been such a great fan of ours and great friend of our program and a personal friend, and so it's fun to come down and share some of the stage here with her today.
All right, well, we're a couple weeks away from the season opener for Warrior football, so I thought we'd start by kind of looking back to last year and get a brief recap of last year. 8-3 last year, not a bad year, but I think you and I were talking before, because you had made the playoffs the previous year in the NCAA, it seemed like a little bit of a letdown, but really in reality it wasn't.
Well, in reality, to us, it was.
Well, true.
You know, because we had such high expectations on the year. We just went through just a tough year with injury and those kind of things. When the first 3 weeks you lose, 4 or 5 of your very best players, including a couple All-Americans, it took its toll. And we played tough in the 2 big games that we lost. Both Duluth and Mankato were undefeated on the whole year. And we were ahead in both of those games. We just couldn't sustain it. And then we dumped one down at Upper Iowa, a game that we really felt like we should win on the road. But that was kind of the height of our issues with injury. But nonetheless, we got to find a way to win the game. And so going 8-3, although not a bad year, was one that we thought that if we'd have got one more win, we'd definitely been in the playoffs and survived it. But now we're looking ahead and see where we go.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about getting some of those players back from injury. You mentioned Nick Pridgeon, Michael Gomez. I think all in all you had 14 starters that went down with injury over the course of the year last year. What does it mean to your team then to bring those players back this year?
Well, like we were saying the other day in a scrimmage, it looks like, oh yeah, those guys they still play for us because we really didn't do anything with them in the spring either. So it's really fun to get those guys back. Twofold. One is they're just very good football players. The second part is the leadership that those kids have. Nick Pridgeon, he's already graduated. Jake Blue's graduated. So we got these guys that are in graduate school now. In fact, Jake Blue's got 2 years left, and so does Gomez. So you start looking at those kind of players, at the impact that they have, not in just their own position, but throughout the entire team. And then the silver lining, Justin, is we have a lot of kids who got a lot of experience because they weren't playing.
Right.
So the competition in the spring was good. The competition this fall camp has been good. To really look at our depth, and now I believe that we have much better quality depth because of the experience those kids had last year.
All right, you talked about the spring game, which that was in April, I believe, and then you had a scrimmage just this past Saturday. What do you get out of those games? How much stock do you put in there, and how much does the performance of the players during those games determine whether or not they see the field during the year?
Well, very much so. I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on the scrimmages. Some people look at it, it's just another practice, which it is. And our number one goal is to, like I said the other day, everybody that walked on the field walk back off, so we want to make sure we keep our kids healthy. But it is a really, really good evaluation period for our staff and for our players to really see, how the young kids perform, how the hurt kids come back, and what kind of shape are they really in. But most importantly is we start to put our game plan together around the performances that they have in the biggest moments, and that's the biggest moments we can provide. And as you saw the other night in our scrimmage, or the other morning, is we just played a game. And that's what we did. We just wanted guys to go out there and play. This week in our scrimmage will be a much more specific on what we do, but we just want to watch kids play so we can game plan around it.
Can you tell us a little bit about what this next scrimmage will be all about?
Yeah, it's going to be at night, so we get some night work too. We do have a night game coming in a couple weeks, so we're going to go at 7 o'clock at night on Thursday, this coming Thursday, and we're going to be like going in from the 5-yard line, put the ball in the 1 yard, and come back out of the end zone. So getting in and out of holes to put pressure on 2-minute periods, down in the red zone. Put our special teams in a bind. So really try to get as many stressful situations. An overtime period would be another one. So as many game-like situations as we can, along with some regular scrimmage downs.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the possible players to watch for this season, and maybe even some players that we saw in the spring game and the scrimmage that maybe up their stock a little bit, and we'll get to see them. Any new names that you want to mention?
Well, I think there are. We got some kids on the offensive line. I think they're really doing well. Trevor Oppadal is a kid that redshirted last year. He's a 6'7", 315-pounder kid. Maybe he's even more than that right now. But he's a tremendous talent. He was from Blue Earth, and he was an original Gopher recruit.
Okay.
It's nice to have Javian Roebuck back. He's healthy right now. Him and Santiago Lloyd are 2 kids, and we have Landon Jacobson back. Also, I think obviously with Jake Blue on the offensive side, and then a guy by the name of Tyler Knutson might be one of our top receivers right now. He was a redshirt freshman, played a little bit last year due to some injury, but he's an unbelievable talent. Made a big catch the other day that you saw down the sideline. And defensively, it's really getting guys back. Devon Moore in the middle, and then you got David Smith, who's a fifth-year senior alongside of him, and then you add Nick Pridgeon. That's a pretty good linebacker core. And getting Cole Liberty and Gomez back, I mean, all of a sudden you got 5 or 6 guys that are upperclassmen, very good at their position. And then we're looking at, Cam Gavin's back, he dislocated his elbow. So really it's not as many new guys on the defense, it's just getting those guys back. Both corners will be the same at this point. So yeah, a lot of new kids, but a lot of the old guys are ready to play.
I got to ask about one name that kind of made a splash in the offseason. That's Dakota Matthews, who played wide receiver at Winona Senior High School. He's now on the Warriors after spending a year as a redshirt in Iowa. How much playing time do you think he'll get?
I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. We have a kind of a package set for him because he's kind of a half tight end, half wide receiver. We can flex him out. We can create some mismatches with him. He's a tremendous talent, as everybody saw it through his high school career. He goes up and gets a football. He did it all the way through the state tournament twice. But as 6'5", and he's now a big body compared to what he was in high school. So he's a mismatch problem, but he's got great hands. You saw him catch a couple balls the other day. But we'll go more to him, especially with mismatches that we can see throughout our scouting reports.
All right, and then speaking of kind of familiar names, I was looking down the roster of your coaches, and a lot of them are former Winona State players. Brian Curtin, Matt Ulrich, Jack Nelson, Paul Preston, Luke Teague, Colin Valley, Michael Russell will be back this year. Talk about bringing back former players to be coaches.
Well, first, I'm not sure if they're a little bit, unbalanced or something, where they want to come and work with me twice. I don't know what that deal is, but no, it's really a big part of our program to get guys that have been in the trenches in our program, understand it, know our philosophy, because they lived it. Most of these guys were in leadership roles while they were here. And then also when they leave, like I'll use Matt Ulrich for an example. He went to a couple different programs, both of which were very successful and are successful. Brings back a new excitement that they did in their practices and their schemes and the way they treated players or whatever it may be to give us a little bit different edge. So I always try to keep it balanced, try to get half the guys in our program that are Winona State blood per se, and then other guys that come from outside to bring us fresh ideas.
All right, just about 30 seconds left. Does it make it a little bit easier because you know who these players are and you kind of know their mindset and know what they will be like as coaches?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Colin Valley, I'll use him for an example because he's one, and Michael Russell. I mean, those guys were in our program solid for 4 and 5 years, and we knew what they were going to be, and they decided they wanted to go into coaching. We kept them right here, and Colin Valley's doing a tremendous job with our tight ends and fullbacks. I mean, he was on the offensive line. He understands the blocking schemes, and he's learning the pass game. But more importantly is, he was a leader on our football team and a guy that everybody looks up to, and they still do.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. We're going to talk offense with Joe Holtzclaw coming up right after this.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
WNB has been partnering with HBC for over 20 years. Having fast, reliable internet and phone service is a critical piece in our ability to provide exceptional service. Partnering with HBC gives me the peace of mind knowing that our services are always available to our clients when they need it. I would absolutely recommend HBC. As our business has been growing and changing, we know that we can rely on HBC to meet our changing technology needs.
Call today to get started with HBC's family of services.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25 from Wellington's Pub and Grill. Joe Holtzclaw joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
A little preview of the offense here. Let's start with talking about the loss of some of the seniors, although one you didn't really lose because Colin Valley is coming back as a coach for you. How many holes did you have to fill for offense in the offseason?
Yeah, we had a few. And Colin, he's helping us a lot in the same role he was before because he was kind of a coach on the field then. But he's going to be huge. Max Mueller being gone is a big one, and then, how we fill in the rest of them. We have 3 technically starters coming back. They're going to be moved around a little bit, but we have young experience coming back, which is good to have. But Max was a good loss. He was athletic. He got out on edges for us, and he did good stuff. But we're going to replace him with bigger bodies, and I think better or worse, it's just going to be different. We're going to be bigger up front and hitting people a little bit harder, hopefully, and stuff like that. So.
One of our goals in the offseason the last 2 years has been much more of an emphasis on getting bigger offensive linemen. Now that we're fully scholarshiped, one of the emphasis was to do that on both sides of the ball. Joe, why don't you talk just briefly about a couple of those young kids that you mentioned in that first group, the red shirts from last year, and then a couple of those monsters we got this year?
Sure. So Peyton Dockel's probably one of the. It's great because he's kind of local from Bloomer, but he's one that's really stepped up in all facets. He was an awesome basketball player, so we didn't know exactly how big he was going to get, but he came in and put on 30 pounds right away. Maximized the weight room stuff, got really big for us. We had Braxton Seaman, who was already a 315 kind of big guy, and then Joe Carlson, who played for us last year. I've had him the whole time, and then Tanner, they're both in the 315 to 320 range. Getting them back inside has been huge because they're going to be big interior linemen. And obviously he mentioned Trevor Opedal is going to be, he's going to be our life source. He's a really good tackle. You're playing with a freshman, but he has the capabilities of snatching anybody on any play, which is awesome. And then that class that we had come in this year, there's some more exciting guys. Declan from Arizona is going to be a big one for us, and he could be impactful right away. And then we've got Ethan Trumpy, who's just massive, and he was fun to watch in the scrimmage the other day. He knocks the stuff out of people, so it's been fun. It's fun being bigger. I was an athletic guy, but having guys that can just stop people dead in their tracks is fun to play with. So yeah, we have the capabilities now to line up and kind of run different schemes and really lean on people and make them defend everything, which is nice.
All right, I want to ask about the tight end position because
Sure.
Greg Rooney graduated as well, and depending on philosophy, sometimes tight ends are kind of phased out of the offense. As far as Winona State goes this season, how do you see the tight end working?
Right, well, the great part about us is we go in and out of it. It's nice when we can get all of our speeds on and get Blue and those guys running around, or we can go with 2 running back sets. We'll have the capabilities. We have 2 really good ones in Levi Smith and Jalen Schleicher to line up and run the football effectively. We'll probably gain some steps in the run game and maybe lose one in the pass game. Levi's not quite as fast or as athletic as Rooney was, but we do like our heavy packages when we get with those guys. But again, you're dealing with the experience, the youthful piece of that. But you get a good energy out of those guys, which is fun in the run game. So
one of the guys that we haven't mentioned yet is Carter Berlin.
Yeah.
He's kind of the heart and soul of that group, and one of the older guys, although he's only a junior. Why don't you talk just briefly about what his leadership capabilities
Sure.
are?
Yeah, Carter's been awesome. He was kind of my first young person, and he jumped right in and he bought into everything I was saying, and he's been a great advocate in fixing our room, and I don't say that in a bad way. We had a great room, but just getting the attitude and the culture kind of created that we say it a lot that they're a representation of their position coach, and so there's a certain way I want us to play football, and Carter and I are a lot on the same page, and he's an edgy football player. But he's also a great leader for us, and he sets our expectations high every day with extra film work and things that they do on their own. And those are the steps you have to take to really get to that championship level, is doing things on your own and setting the bar higher, for a personal aspect. So he's done everything. He's going to be a great football player too.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to offense with us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show, and when we come back, we'll talk defense with Matt Ulrich right after this.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
Business Internet just reached the tipping point. Tip your hat to the information age. Get a gig for business and upload robust files, complex videos, and compound reports at the same time, in real time, while saving time. For DISA and data, get a gig. Got it? Now get going. Get Luminet Gigabit for Business backed by 24/7 wizard support from HBC. Call us today.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here from Wellington's Pub and Grill in Winona. And now Matt Ulrich joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk a little defense with you, but before we get into that, we want to talk about your background a little bit. As Coach alluded to, former player here at Winona State, and then you actually kind of got started in coaching here, went off to Notre Dame College in Ohio,
Yep.
UC Davis, back to Notre Dame, and then here.
Yep.
What did you learn in your other stops about the game of football, about coaching, that has kind of helped you in your coaching career?
Early on in my GA years, just hard work. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility thrown on me early in those first couple of years when I was at Winona and out at Notre Dame. Out at UC Davis, I was just a part of a fantastic staff and really learned the game, the X's and O's and that sort of thing. So I was really fortunate for that experience. And then when I went back to Notre Dame the second time, just gained some coordinator experience and learned from a really good head coach and a guy that just preached toughness and mental and physical toughness and being disciplined. So each stop along the way, there's a lot of benefit. So, but it's good to be back, and Coach Sawyer was a big reason why I came here in the first place and to play, and I knew that I'd enjoy the experience coming back. So.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the defense then, and talk about some of the players that you're going to have back from injury. And notably, obviously, is going to be Nick Bridgen. He was named the NSIC South Preseason Player of the Year. What does it mean for you and for the defense to have him back?
It's good to see him back on the field. I mean, last year it was frustrating to look over to your side on game days and see some of your best players in street clothes. But to have him out there just generates more confidence amongst the rest of the defense. And their leadership was probably something that we missed even more than their play at times. But it's good to have them back. I think that it gives the whole defense a new level of confidence. So.
You know, Matt, I was going to touch on, I know a little bit more, he'll go into a little bit more maybe of those other players, Gomez and those guys up front, but talk about the dynamics with our staff, because you and Brian are both Winona State guys. I kind of feeding off what you said, Justin, but also with Rocco here as well. So talk about how you guys, the three full-time guys on the defensive staff, work together.
It's been a blessing that we've worked so well together. Brian and I have gone back, we've known each other since 2007 when I came on board as a player. So we've had a great relationship, and then Rocco just fit right in when he came back with me, and we worked together really well. We tried to use each other to bounce ideas off each other and come up with the best solution, and not have it be a one-man show. And outside of work, we hang out with each other. Our families are together a lot, so it's been awesome to be part of that kind of defensive staff.
Okay. I want to kind of talk about the identity of the defense. At least last year, it was takeaways. You had 28 takeaways, which was, I think, top 10 in all of Division II last year. And I know that's not something that you can really plan on doing, but how do you set yourself up so that you're a defense that's taking the ball away from the offense?
Yeah, we have a few goals that we really hammer home every year, and takeaways is a big piece of it. I mean, overall, we just want to be extremely disruptive, and we talk about that and drill it into their heads in meetings and at practice and Friday walkthroughs. And it's not necessarily just stripping the football or picking the football off. It's getting pressure on the quarterback. It's making sure that he doesn't have a clear throwing lane. It's making sure our under coverage is always rerouting guys so receivers can't be screaming down the field at our DBs. So there's a lot of different things that go into it, and those things play off each other, and the kids have really embraced it and accept it as who we are as a defense. So.
All right, Coach Sawyer mentioned one other name, and Michael Gomez. Talk about him coming back and being able to put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, he makes my job a lot easier when he's out there. He makes us a lot better as a defense, not only in the run game, but he's really tough to block, and teams are going to do some things, I think, this year to try to get an extra body on him, It's our job to try to put him in situations where he can get some of those one-on-ones and be successful, because he can really take a football game over when he's on. And he's driven to study, film throughout the week, and know exactly what they're doing. He finds tendencies with offensive linemen, so he's really bought in. And the great part is that all those other defensive linemen see exactly how he works, and they've bought into it, and he's a great role model for them as well.
All right, well, thank you for joining us here today, and good luck this season.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, we're going to take another break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about what happens now until game day 2 weeks from now. We'll see you in just a moment here on TV 25.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
Hi, I'm Melanie Messman, Advertising Account Executive at HBC. HBC offers local businesses the ability to place their advertising message into top-rated TV series, sports, and news programming, allowing your business to target viewers in 30 communities. With a locally produced TV commercial, we can show the audience what your business has to offer. Together, we can create an advertising message that brings new customers into your business. Call me to discuss how we can get your business on TV today.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're from Wellington's Pub and Grill this week, and let's talk a little bit about special teams now. Obviously, we talked, Michael Russell is gone as punter, and he was with you for 4 years, kind of a solid player back there as punter. You have Paul Ortiz coming back as the place kicker. Tell us a little bit about what that kind of special teams area looks like coming into this year.
Well, I think it's going to be really very good. We'll start with kind of missing a little bit with Mike Russell, obviously, because he was a 4-year player for us and did a tremendous job, and especially his last couple years. But now he's coming back as a coach with us and working with those specialists, and it's been tremendous help for me. And you know, he's an all-in guy, and so he's really valuable to our program. And then you talk about Paul Ortiz, and Paul Ortiz really is probably the biggest leg we've ever had here, and I'm talking about Carter McCauley and a couple others, but I mean, he has tremendous ability. If we just dial him in just a little bit more, he had a good year last year. This could be a great year. In fact, you saw in the scrimmage, I gave him a 58-yarder and just missed it, hit it on the toe a little bit. But he's got that kind of ability. So he'll probably be doing double duty right now. He's also our best punter right now.
Okay.
We do have a couple freshman kids that we brought in, and we'll see how that goes. But if we went today, Paul would do both. The other part is I think Rocco D'Amico does a great job in our setup for our special teams planning. We have tremendous athletes. I mean, we don't shy away from putting our best kids on our special teams, especially that punt team. And our cover teams, so those are really important. And the rest is, you know, Coach Holtzclaw hit it right on the nose, where you know we got bigger, and that makes our PAT field goal team a little bit better just for the protection part. But overall, I think that when you have great athletes out there running around, it really makes a difference. And then in the return game, Jake Blue and Isaiah Hall, I'm not sure there's better in the league right now. And Jake Blue was leading the country part of it at the beginning, then he got hurt. And Isaiah had a great year as well, both in the kick return game and punt return game. So if we keep those guys healthy, you know, it's kind of a 1-2 punch back there that if they're going to kick off to us or they're going to punt it, we have opportunities to make some big plays and turn those into offensive weapons, and because of the ability they have in the open field.
All right, and then one part of the special teams that you don't think a lot about is the long snapper. But I know that Bob Ernest likes to talk about Cole Stewart all the time as long snapper. Can you give us a little insight into that part of the game?
Yeah, it's you know, it's upside down. I mean, they live their life upside down like a bat, you know. And Cole Stewart is just a tough kid. You know, he works part-time on a dairy farm here while he's going to school. So, tremendous young man. He's done great in the classroom. And he's been going into his 3rd year doing this for us, and it is one of those unsung heroes that nobody notices it. That's a great day, and when you notice him, it's a problem. And he's been great, and he's getting challenged by another young man, and they keep battling it out, but somehow Cole keeps coming out on top, and when it gets to pressure time, he puts the ball where we need it, and I'm very excited for his year.
All right. One other thing we really didn't talk about was quarterback, and maybe that's good that we're waiting here towards the end of the show to talk about quarterback because Owen Burke had a great year last year. Talk about the quarterback position.
Well, I think the biggest thing with Owen is, one is he has all the ability in the world. The second thing is we've really seen a change in him throughout last year, but definitely in the off season and now through the summer, is his leadership capability, his understanding of the offense. He's truly the leader of the group. He can make all the throws and those kind of things, but he understands now where to put the ball, and if it's cloudy, dump the ball down, throw it away. So his maturity is what we were waiting for, and we really started to see signs of that throughout the last offseason. And so far this fall, he's been on the money. So it's really fun to watch him when now he's in charge and has been doing it for 3 years.
All right, so we're about 2 weeks before the season opener. So let's talk a little bit about what you work on now coming off of the scrimmage that you had on Saturday. What does this week of practice look like?
Well, we're starting our game prep stuff now, so we're starting to spend a little bit more time with Wayne State or even our first couple opponents to make sure that we have in place and get repped up on different formations, different personnel groups on both offense and defense, get our big packages in, for our goal line defense, goal line offense, short yardage. So those are things, and then we start piecing together situational football. And so you start looking at the opponents and then put into practice the parts of the field that are important, obviously the red zone, but also you're starting to talk about third downs a little bit more against these particular defenses, and then the defensive strategies in those same areas. So starting to get a little bit more particular about and purposeful about what we're practicing to make sure that we are game ready when Wayne State comes here in a couple weeks.
So then how does that change from this week to next week when you're actually leading up to the game?
Yeah, next week what really happens after the second scrimmage here, we really go into game week mode. We have scout teams, those kind of things. So it's been kind of a challenge to see who's possibly going to get on the bus or be part of our game day on the field. And then now we start building our specialists that are our scout teams, and those kids now will be running their Wayne State's offense, Wayne State's defense, Wayne State special teams, as much as we have in a scouting report from playing them for year after year. So that really it starts to take effect next week. We start ramping up the reps for the ones, the guys that are going to spend the most time. We need to spend the most time together. But contact is down and the reps go up. So with that, the goal never changes. We have got to keep our kids healthy. We don't put very many kids on the ground ever, and we surely won't next week.
All right. The NSIC coaches poll came out a while ago. It's not always a big topic to talk about, but you've been picked 4th overall in the NSIC, 2nd in the NSIC South. Minnesota State, Minnesota Duluth, they're right up there. Sioux Falls is there. How accurate do you think that poll is? Are those the top teams along with your team to kind of watch for this season?
Yeah, I think they are the top teams. I would throw Bemidji State in that group as well. They had another good year. Moorhead was 8-3, went to a bowl game. So we got some other competition up in the north that we don't play. I guess we played Bemidji this year. But really, I think that's right where we should be. I was a little disappointed when we head-to-head last year, we beat Sioux Falls. Then they jumped ahead of us in the overall poll, but it's a poll. But it does matter. And the other two teams, both Mankato and Duluth, were undefeated. I mean, they both were 11-0 last year, and in the conference play, so they should be there. So I like where we are. I'd rather be chasing people than be hunted, and so we're in a good spot.
I know this isn't anything that you control, but how do you feel about your schedule this year? Because you're going to play 4 of the other 5 top teams in the NSIC during the year. How do you feel about your schedule this year?
I think it's great. I'd rather play the best teams every year. Makes you better, makes it more fun, and so it doesn't matter who we play. I would like to play some non-conference games like we used to, but we have a closed schedule, and that's what the league is. So right now, to get the best games and have the best chance to get in the playoffs is to play the best teams, and you got to win them. So and then I know that 3 losses won't get in the playoffs, and sometimes 2. In fact, a couple years back, Sioux Falls was 10-1 and didn't get in the playoffs. So you got to win games, and you got to take them one at a time. And if we can pull it off and get in the postseason, we know that we went through really some of the top 5 teams in the country to get there.
All right. Well, I appreciate your insight into the season this year.
Thanks, Justin.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on the Tom Sawyer Show. We'll see you next week here on HBC TV 25.